Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name's Rhiannon and today I'm filming the mid-year book Freakout tag. This tag was originally created by Chami and Ellie, so I will leave their links down below as well as the list of questions. So if you want to do the tag yourself, they'll all be listed there. But I feel like this is going to be quite a long video, so let's just get into it. So just for a bit of background information, at the time that I'm filming this video, I have read 71 books. My goal for the year was 50, so I have surpassed that quite a bit. And now I want to raise the bar and I am planning on reading 100 books this year. I do have the list of questions here on my phone, so if you see me looking down, that is why. But the first question is, what is the best book you've read so far in 2020? I am a very indecisive person. I hate that about myself, to be honest with you, but it's a trait that I have, and so trying to answer this question was extremely difficult. However, I have just recently read The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien, and this just solidified my love for the Lord of the Rings franchise. This is the first part of Tolkien's Lord of the Rings epic. This was originally one long book, but it has been split into 3 parts to make it a bit easier to read and more accessible. I feel like carrying around a 1,000-page book would be quite a challenge. So this is the first part. This is about a group of hobbits from a place called the Shire, mainly Bilbo and Frodo Baggins. Bilbo has been on quite a few exciting adventures that are actually mentioned in The Hobbit, which is another book by Tolkien, but he feels like he needs to leave the Shire and go on a new adventure because he does miss that exhilarating feeling of being on an adventure and seeing all these different things. And so one day he decides to leave the Shire, and therefore he leaves everything that he owns to Frodo Baggins, who is his nephew. Because of this, Frodo comes into possession of the One Ring, which he doesn't know what it is, but the wizard Gandalf soon appears and tells him that this is the One Ring of Sauron, who can basically use it to take dominion over everyone and everything on Middle Earth. And so with that, Frodo is tasked to take the ring to Rivendell, where there will be a council to decide what is to do with the ring. I don't want to say much more because I don't want to spoil it, but this is my favourite series of all time. I am absolutely obsessed with everything Lord of the Rings. It has such a special place in my heart, and so diving into these books, it's just such an amazing experience. Tolkien's writing is magical and lyrical, and it's just wonderful to read. It's very long and dense, but in it you have poems, you have songs, you have little rhymes, and they're all just wonderful, and I had the best experience reading this book. I did also listen to the audiobook of this alongside reading it physically, and that definitely enhanced my experience. I listened to the one narrated by Rob Inglis, and he is amazing. He does all the different voices, he sings all the songs, and is just a brilliant narrator, so I would highly recommend listening to the audiobook. I feel like the audiobook might be a better way for you to dive into the series if you've never read these books before, because these books are very dense. This is only part 1 and it's over 400 pages, but it feels like it could be an 800-page book. It's very slow and dense, but you get so much information about the world and the different characters and the different races that are in this world that it is truly amazing. And I think the audiobook is definitely more of an accessible way to get into the series and enjoy it, but I would highly recommend picking this book up in any way, shape or form because it's truly amazing, and I can't wait to carry on reading the rest of the books in this series. Question number 2 is the best sequel you've read so far in 2020. If you guys have been watching my weekly reading vlogs, you'll know that I recently read A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab, and I fell in love with this book. I read A Darker Shade of Magic a year ago, I think, and I just hadn't gotten around to reading the second book, and this year I've been really wanting to tackle my own TBR and finish some of the series that I've already started, because I keep starting new series when I really shouldn't. So I picked this up, and oh my goodness, this is absolutely amazing. It has a magical tournament in it, which is one of my favourite things in books. I love reading about that sort of thing, and I really enjoyed seeing all the characters interacting throughout this book and the relationships that develop because of that. So like I said, this is the second book in the A Darker Shade of Magic trilogy by V.E. Schwab. The first one follows a boy named Cal who is an Antari, which means that he can travel between different parallel Londons. He is one of 2 people people who can do this, and so he is very sought after. When he was a boy, he was actually taken in by the royal family of Red London, where he is from, and so he is a part of the royal family in a way, and he is very much like Prince Rai's brother, so there is a very close bond between him and the Prince of Red London, which is lovely. But anyway, getting back into the synopsis, Kel is from Red London, which is a place full of magic, but then, like I said, there are different parallel Londons. There are 3 other ones, which are White London, that is quite evil. They do have magic, but it's not a very nice place. People use it for the wrong reasons, and so it's fallen into darkness in a way. We then have Grey London, which is very much like this world's London. It's very mundane and there's no magic in it. And then we have Black London, where it's impossible to go to now because dark magic overtook the land and it's basically non-existent anymore. Nothing lives there, nothing goes in or out. However, in the first book we realise that Kel is actually a bit of a smuggler, and he sells and trades different items from different Londons to people that obviously can't travel there themselves. But one day he comes into possession of a relic of Black London, and that could possibly lead to the destruction of Red London and all the other Londons too. So it's all about Kel trying to figure stuff out and save all the different Londons and get rid of this relic. And of course he has help. Like I said, he is Prince Rai's brother, so we do see a lot of him, and one day he is also pickpocketed by a woman named Lila Bard, and she does get roped into this adventure quest type thing with Kel, and so together they take it upon themselves to try and save the different Londons. I did not enjoy the first book that much. I think I gave it a 3.5 stars or something like that, and that's why I was a bit hesitant jumping into this one. But honestly, this is one of my new favourite books. It's absolutely phenomenal and I had such a good time reading it, and I rated this a 5 stars. Question number 3 is a new release you haven't read yet but want to. This book has literally just come out, but that is Unravel the Dusk by Elizabeth Lim. I read Spin the Dawn last year and absolutely loved it. It's such a good book. It is marketed as Fashion Runway meets Mulan, and I really enjoyed the fashion element in it. It's basically about a girl who wants to become a tailor, but as is the case with a lot of things, women aren't allowed to be tailors, and so she enters a competition to become the king's royal tailor, but she dresses up as a man to do so. If she's caught, she would probably be killed, and there is a very high chance that she won't succeed because there are 11 other tailors trying to win this position in the royal household. As well as that, the final challenge of this competition is to sew 3 magic gowns for the Emperor's bride from the laughter of the sun, the tears of the moon, and the blood of the stars. It seems very impossible, but there might just be a way to complete this task, and it is honestly such a good book. It's so magical and I really enjoyed my time reading it. I did give it a 5 stars, and like I said, this has just recently come out and I want to get to it as soon as possible. I am a little bit hesitant with this though because there was a romance in the first book that I wasn't keen on, and I'm kind of hoping it's not the main focus of this book, but I am going to read it nonetheless, and hopefully very soon. Question number 4 is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. How could I not choose The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue for this question? I have it pre-ordered. I've actually pre-ordered the Forbidden Planet special edition, and I do plan to get the US edition once it's safe to do so. I am so excited for that book, and if I could do anything to get my hands on it now, I would. If you don't know, V.E. Schwab or Victoria Schwab is one of my favourite authors of all time. I think I have all of her books or the majority of her books. I just love her writing and her characters. They are phenomenal. And Addie LaRue is about a girl who makes a deal with the devil so that she can live forever. However, because of this, she is cursed to be forgotten by every single person that she meets. But after 300 years, everything changes when Addie stumbles across a young man in a hidden bookshop and he remembers her name. Victoria has said that this is the book that she became an author to write, and I am so excited. I feel like this is going to be her best work, and when I get my hands on that book, I am going to devour it because I just cannot wait to read it. Question 5 is, what has been the biggest disappointment? Now, you might have recently seen that I posted a wrap-up where I basically ranted about this book for a long time. If you haven't, I'd advise you go and watch it because I feel like it's quite funny. I do go off on a bit of a rant, and that book is The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd-Jones. This is advertised as horror, and it's essentially about a girl called Rin who is a grave digger. However, the people that die in this town don't stay dead, their bodies actually rise up every night, and those bodies are known as bone houses. One day a boy called Ellis stumbles into the town, and when he does so, the bone houses start to attack more viciously, and so Rin decides that she and Ellis must go and break this curse. I'm not going to go into why I didn't like this too much because, like I said, I do have a rant review about this book. I gave this 2 stars and I'm honestly debating lowering it. And one of the main reasons why I don't like this is that nowhere on this cover or the synopsis does it say that it's inspired by Welsh mythology or folklore or anything like that. But on page 1 there are so many Welsh words and myths thrown in there and it doesn't make sense, and it was just really grating on me because the author is American, and so by using some phrases or words, it just sounded awful and it really did not need to be put in there. And I feel like if you're gonna write a book about Welsh mythology and the Welsh language, you should know what you're talking about. I'm getting really angry just thinking about this book, so I'm not gonna talk about it for too much longer. But yeah, I almost DNF'd it at 50 pages because of the Welsh references and words and everything like that. I didn't, I carried on, but honestly, I guess the plot twist pretty early on, and there was this romance that I wasn't keen on at all. It was very out of the blue and I didn't like it, and yeah, it just didn't do anything for me, and I am going to unhaul this very, very soon. Question number 6 is, what was the biggest surprise? And for me, this one was definitely Furyborn by Claire Legrand. This is one of my new favourite books. I loved this book so much, and it was a surprise because so many people have said that they don't like this book, and I get why, because there are some elements of it that weren't the best, but at the time of me reading this it was just what I needed, and I flew through this in 2 days. I think I honestly could not put it down. I don't really know the best way to describe this to you because it's a very strange premise and we do follow 2 different timelines, so I will just read you the synopsis of this book just because I have tried explaining this before and I've done an awful job, so I feel like this way you will have a good, clear understanding of what the book is about. But it says, 2 young women, centuries apart, hold the power to either save their world or doom it. When assassins ambush her best friend, the Crown Prince, Riel Darden risks everything to save him, exposing her ability to perform all 7 kinds of elemental magic. The only people who should possess this power are a pair of prophesized queens, a queen of light and a queen of blood. To prove she is the Sun Queen, Riel must endure 7 trials to test her magic. If she fails, she will be executed, unless the trials destroy her first. 1,000 years later, the legend of Queen Riel is a mere fairy tale to bounty hunter Eliana Ferracora. When the Undying Empire conquered her kingdom, she embraced violence to keep her family safe. Now she believes herself untouchable until her mother vanishes. To find her, Eliana joins a rebel captain on a dangerous mission and discovers that the evil at the heart of the Empire is more terrible than she ever imagined. As Riel and Eliana fight in a cosmic war that spans millennia, their stories intersect, and the shocking connections between them will ultimately determine the fate of the world and of each other. This book has angels in it, it has magic, it's honestly such a ride, but it is so good. And even though it doesn't sound like it would make sense, it all ties in together right at the end of this book. And I've heard that the second book is even better, and I'm ashamed to say that I haven't read that yet. I think I read this in January, and I've been putting off reading the sequel for so long. I don't know why, I'm just scared that it's gonna let me down, even though everyone has said that it's so much better than this one. I've put it on my TBRs for like 3 months running and I still haven't gotten to it, but I am planning on reading it before the last book in this trilogy comes out. I think that comes out in November, so it will definitely be read before then, and I'm just really looking forward to diving back into this world. Question 7 is, who is your new favourite author? It can either be a debut author or just new to you, and for this one I have gone for Samantha Shannon. I read The Priory of the Orange Tree last month and I fell in love. Again, it's one of my new favourite books. This is an adult high fantasy. It follows 2 different queendoms, one who worship dragons and one who despises dragons. However, an evil is awakening in this land which forces the 2 countries to have to possibly work together even though they have this centuries-long conflict. This book is phenomenal. It's an absolute masterpiece and I would highly recommend everyone read it. It is a standalone, so even though it is a chunky book, there are no more books for you to read. It's just this one book by itself, and I honestly wish there were more because this was amazing. I loved every single character in here except for Nicholas Roos. I still don't like him, never will, I don't think. But in this story we have dragons, we have mages, and we have queendoms, so what more could you want? Samantha Shannon's writing is absolutely incredible. I just wanted to keep reading this even though it's a chunker. I read it in a chunk of 100 pages per day, so it was a bit more manageable, and I always felt myself struggling to put it down once those 100 pages came to a close. I'd also say it is better for you to just jump into this book not knowing anything. That's what I did, and I felt like that was the way to go because I did not know what this book was going to be about at all, and what it was about was just so much better than anything I could have expected. Please don't let the size put you off. It is actually one of the easier reads for high fantasy, I'd say. I had such a good time reading this. Everyone says that the first 200 pages are very info dumpy and hard to get through. I personally didn't find that, and that might just be because I have been reading a lot more adult high fantasies lately, so I'm used to that style of writing. Of course there's going to be a lot of world building and it's going to be quite confusing, but there is a glossary at the back, so if you're confused about anything you can just flip over there, read what you need to and jump back. Samantha Shannon has made it so accessible, and I truly hope that you guys pick this up because it's just phenomenal. It does also have an FF romance in here, which is one that I really liked. I'm not a massive romance reader, but that wasn't the main element of the story or the main focus, and it just worked really well, and I ended up really liking the relationship between the two characters too. So this book literally has everything. I loved it so much, and yeah, I'm gonna stop talking about it now because I could talk about this all day. Pick it up if you haven't, it's definitely worth the read. Question 8 is, who is your newest fictional crush? How can it not be any of the male characters in Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas? Mainly Hunt and Ruin. I think Ruin possibly more than Hunt even for me, but this is Sarah J. Maas's first adult fantasy book, and this is one of my new favourite books of all time. I am trash for Sarah J. Maas. I don't care what you guys think. I love her books so much. These are the only books that I will be a sucker for the romances. I just get sucked in and I love them so much. It must just be something about fae men that I just can't resist. But this is about a girl called Bryce Quinlan who is a party girl. She goes out drinking, she has random hookups, and she's just enjoying life to the fullest. However, one day her closest friend is actually killed and her life is turned upside down. 2 years later, when the supposed killer is behind bars but the murders start up again, the city's leaders actually command Bryce to team up with a fallen angel named Hunt Athalar to investigate and try to solve these murders. This deals a lot with PTSD and depression and very dark topics in general, but it's such a hard-hitting and amazing book. I had all the emotions reading this. It was truly a whirlwind. I was happy, I was sad, my heart was literally ripped out of my chest at one point, and yeah, this is up there with A Course of Mist and Fury for me. I absolutely loved it. Question 9 is, who is your newest favourite character? You guys might laugh at me for this, but I have chosen Miss Marple from the Miss Marple Mysteries, written by Agatha Christie. Again, if you're following my vlogs for a few weeks, you'll know that I have recently gotten into Agatha Christie's books. I love them so much. They are so complex and they are very short. This looks a bit chunkier because it is actually a compact edition of the book. It's not the normal edition, but this series of mysteries follows a woman named Miss Marple. She is very old and has a lot of time on her hands, and so in her spare time she does solve some mysteries. This is the first book in the Miss Marple Mysteries. It's called The Murder at the Vicarage, and this sets the scene so well. In here we are in the village of St. Mary Mead, where Miss Marple is from, and so you get to see her neighbours, the village itself, and what her life is generally like. This one is a bit of a simpler mystery because, like I said, it is the first one, and I think the focus is on Miss Marple and her background, so there's not as much focus on the mystery. However, it's still a good one and worth the read. But I think there are 14 books in total featuring Miss Marple. I've read 3 so far, and I just love her so much because she is an old woman that does like to listen to gossip, and so people don't really take her seriously. However, because of this, she finds out a lot of information, and it turns out that she is actually better at this than the police are. I have fallen in love with Agatha Christie's writing, and I can't wait to read more of the Miss Marple mysteries. Number 10 is What's a Book That Made You Cry? And I am just going to use Crescent City for this one because I did. I was bawling at the end of this book, and that's very rare for me because I don't really tend to cry in books, but I was just so into this, so emotional, and it really tugged at my heartstrings. So if you want a good cry, then this is definitely the book to read because this did things to me, guys. Question number 11 is what's a book that made you happy? And honestly, I don't have a specific book because I do tend to enjoy most of the books that I read, and they do make me happy in one way or another. However, if I had to choose one, it would probably be The Fellowship of the Ring again, just because of the nostalgia behind it. And I did find myself smiling whilst reading this, especially throughout some of the songs and different scenes, because like I said, Tolkien's writing is just phenomenal, and anytime I dive into this world, it doesn't matter if it's the films or the books or anything, I just feel so happy. They are my happy place, and yeah. I'm sorry that I'm repeating my answers, but this is the first book that pops to mind like that, and you can see I'm smiling now just talking about it. Question number 12 is what is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received? If you don't know, it was actually my 21st birthday on the 3rd of July, and my sister did such a good job with her present. She actually bought me the Mina Lima edition of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Other Stories by Lewis Carroll. This is absolutely stunning, and not only is the cover stunning, the spine is just beautiful, and throughout this book we do have illustrations, like that is the Cheshire Cat. There's a lot of interactive elements to this where you'll have to pull some things out. We have Humpty Dumpty there, I believe that's from Through the Looking Glass, but it's just absolutely beautiful. That is a page with a nursery rhyme on there. I love this so much, and I haven't been able to stop staring at it. I definitely need to buy the other books in these editions. There are quite a few out now. The ones that I've been eyeing up recently have been Peter Pan, Beauty and the Beast and The Little Mermaid, because then I will have 4 of my favourite Disney stories all in these stunning editions. I will probably ask for them for Christmas or my birthday now, just because my sister has kicked it off with this book, and I feel like it's just a nice gift to receive because, like I said, it is an interactive book and it's just a beautiful book to buy for someone as a gift or to receive it yourself. And then question number 13, which is the last one, it says what books do you need to read by the end of the year? That is a very vague question, and honestly I don't really know. I will definitely be reading some of Robin Hobb's books because I am participating in Elderlingalong, which is a read-along of Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderling series hosted by Becca from Becca and the Books. I've read the first 2 in the Farseer trilogy, and I do need to read the 3rd one this month, so that's definitely a high priority. Like I said, I really need to read Kingsbane, which is the 2nd book in the Imperium trilogy, so the first book was Furyborn that I showed you earlier, and I also really want to read the Daevabad trilogy, I think is what it's called. The first book is the City of Brass. I've just heard so many good things about that, and it's one that I really need to pick up soon because I just have this feeling that I'm gonna love it, and again, it's one that I've been putting off for way too long. So we have finally come to the end of this video. Please do leave a comment down below telling me what your favourite book of 2020 is so far. I know all our opinions can change by the end of the year, but as of now, these were some of my favourite books that I've read in 2020, and I'm so glad that I read them and that I decided to film this tag because it has made me go through the books that I've read this year, and it's just put a smile on my face realising how many books I loved. Again, all the information and the questions for this tag will be linked down below. I wasn't tagged by anyone to do it. I don't know if you're meant to tag people, but if you want to do it, go ahead. But that is it for today's video, guys. If you liked this video, don't forget to click the like button as well as the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content from me. Thank you guys so much for watching. It truly does mean the world to me, and I will see you soon in my next video. Goodbye!